Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's First in a While. Please hold. First up we have Last Day Good Deed by Swiller. Many years ago I worked for a rather large organisation on the outskirts of Chester, UK. Let's just say they were in the credit card business. Because they were. Anywho, I had been working there as a temp for 9 months with what was looking like no hope of being taken on full-time. To be fair, I wasn't enjoying my career change as an ex-forces lorry driver. I thought working in an office with lots of women would make a nice change from grumpy forklift drivers all day. And I really didn't like some of the company's policies regarding late payments. Example, someone takes a card out, has up to 59 days before their first payment. They miss it by 1 to 3 days because it's a newly set up account, but the company would take their 0% for 18 months balance transfer of £5,000 and would make them pay at 19 to 30% instead, leaving them with a late fee, interest, and now a minimum payment of, say, £250 instead of £20. Well, cut to my last day. I'd had enough of making people angry. If the computer said no, there would be nothing I could do. My manager could, but 99% of the time they wouldn't to hit targets. I get a call from about halfway through my shift, and it's a transfer from customer assistance, collections. They don't assist anyone and just threaten court action all day. This lady was to be transferred to me to make a £60 payment for a 90-day late payment. I took the call and noticed the other agent disappear from the call. Said my greetings, and it was immediately apparent she was not happy to talk. I asked her what the problem was, and she just snapped that I was to take the payment. But I could hear the held-back cry in her voice. She then explained she'd had to use her last £30 and borrowed another £30 from a friend and all that usual stuff. But today, I believed her and took pity. I couldn't have her kids going hungry. So I said, "Well, you're through to customer service now. We're much more helpful." I read the notes on the account, and my example above is exactly what happened, but it was a £2,000 balance transfer about 3 years prior. Her balance was now about £5,400 due to interest, late fees, and direct debit fees. I could see she made the correct payments, just a day or two late. She's done nothing wrong other than be unlucky enough to get the wrong agent at the time. So I popped in my manager's authorization code. It was a 3-letter code. I'd seen them type on my keyboard many times. Refunded her 0% for 8 months, refunded all her interest, every late fee, and every direct debit fee. She burst out crying and didn't believe that I was doing this. I explained that there was a new policy and some circumstances can be reversed. A lie. I took a £5 payment just to make sure it definitely went through and no more late fees were added. I then added a task for someone to go back into her account in 2 weeks to remove any additional residual interest, which is actually the only normal thing I've done at this point. She said her thank yous, and I asked her not to call until tomorrow at the earliest. She still wasn't 100% sure on me. This customer service floor contained about 400 desks for agents, and about 300 were full. So imagine my surprise when 2 to 3 hours later, when I get a call from the same lady checking on her balance. I just whispered at her, "Oi, it's my last day. This is all real. Don't call back again till tomorrow." Couldn't believe she came back through to me. Anyway, skip forward 2 weeks and I get a call from a friend I made there, which started, "What the fuck did you do?" He'd been tasked to check my tasks and refunded the lady another £2 something, as was his job. He laughed so hard at my notes. We still talk about it to this day. Best thing I've done to help someone out. You're a good soul. Okie dokie. Story number 2. You requested the call by Snowy Owl. I have thankfully been out of the call center for 5 years at this point, but sometimes I sit and think about the absolute batshit crazy people I used to deal with. I remembered this one recently. For background, I worked with a UK-based insurance underwriter selling home insurance. One day early in my time with the company, I received a call around lunchtime from a very irate man that his insurance premium had increased on renewal. Due to how busy the call center was, he had been on hold for around 15 minutes, luxury, before he got through to me, and the first thing he did was start berating me for around 10 minutes about how ridiculous it was that we were so busy. How he was on his lunch break at work. Well, he could have been eating in those 15 minutes then. How some people actually have jobs to do. To me, who was literally at my job talking to him, no, you're taking money from him. It's not real work. We all know that. How it was disgraceful that we didn't have more people answering the phones, etc., etc. It wants more people not working, eh? All the while I was trying to get him to answer security information for me so I could actually discuss his policy with him. When I finally managed to get into his policy and ask him what he was calling about, I had to tell him that per company policy we were unable to adjust prices on insurance policies without reducing the cover, i.e. removing accidental damage cover or legal cover or asshole cover. I made that last one up. He wasn't willing to do this, so I informed him that he was on one of our older policies. I could take him through a new insurance quote to see if the new coverage was any cheaper. I don't know why the new policies were often cheaper, because the coverage in some cases was actually higher. He agreed, but said that he didn't have time now as he needed to get back to work, but could I call him back later once he got home? I said okay, and asked when would be the best time. He asked me to call him at 6 p.m. I am sure some of you can see where this is going. 6 p.m. rolls around. I call him and introduce myself, to which he proceeds to start screaming that he is sitting and eating his evening meal. This motherfucker never not eating. And how dare I call him when he is eating? He then proceeds to hang up on me. I wrote a note on his policy to warn the person who had to deal with him when he inevitably called back, and finished my shift 30 minutes later. The next day I went into work, to be told by one of my colleagues that he had called back at 7:55 p.m. We closed at 8, telling them all about how incredibly rude I was for calling him during dinner. Does he not know the calls are recorded? And then kept them on the phone for over an hour and a half going through a quote, which they didn't even end up taking, as they decided it wasn't worth the hassle, and they would just stick with their current policy. Honestly, how I stayed at that job for 3 years, I will never know. It was bills. Story number 3. Another episode of Why Do I Pay You Then? By a random dude. 0. Hi, this is... I cannot find the game on any channel. I play... Fix this now. I understand. I will be happy to look into this for you. May I please get your account information? The customer then provides details. I checked the TV Guide listings and cannot find the game on any channel. Looked it up online and found that the games on Monday will not be broadcast on TV, as a streaming platform purchased the rights to it. To confirm, I check with the supervisor, who verifies the same information. I return to the customer. It looks like this game is not available on any TV channel. On Mondays, it's only available on the streaming service. Rhymes with Time Video. But I pay so much for the sports package, I should have access to it. No, unfortunately, the broadcast rights for Monday games were purchased by Time Video, which is why it isn't available on TV channels. You can subscribe to that service separately or access it through a friend or family member's existing subscription. And why do I pay you guys? As your cable provider, we ensure access to the channels included in your package. Unfortunately, we don't control which specific games or programs air on those channels. That's determined by broadcasters and sports organizations. Any games not played on Monday are available to be accessed on the channels on your package. This isn't right. So it's not available on any TV channels? That's correct.
I pay so much for the sports package. It was not available on any channels.
Correct. It's only available on the streaming service.
So you're saying it's not available on any other channels?
I hate subscription culture as much as the next guy. Not as much as this guy, apparently. But there are some things your service provider literally has no control over. Okay, story number 4. Today someone tried to bombard and stump me with questions, and began to be annoyed that I actually knew the answers to every question quickly. By No Software 3288. As if anything ever makes sense with this field of work. So anyway, caller drops in. I go through the whole opening thing, and she just has a question. Which is a call type I loathe because it's never just a question, but okay, sure. She asks her question. I answer it. I've been here forever, and I've gotten the question 1,000,000 times. So she rewords the question she just asked. As if the yes or no response wasn't good enough for the yes or no question that she asked. Okay, I bite and give her a little more, but you can't give it too much. You don't want to scramble their brains. And she's silent, then lets out an okay, as if it's still no good. She literally asked a question she knew the answer to, and I agreed. But she's confused that I agree with her. But I don't want to go down this path, so I ask her, other than your question about X, did you have any other questions for me? She goes, well, actually, yes, blah, 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 blah. This time, not a yes or no, but very simple 1, 2, 3 policy, so I answer. She asks another question, and another, and another, and another. And they're all very simple questions. Anyone who's been working longer than a couple of years would know, honestly. But she's starting to get irritated, and she's asking the questions at a faster pace. Oh, am I being quizzed? Is she trying to assert dominance on my call? Did I bruise her ego at some point? Like, what's going on? The next question she blurts out, like it's an episode of Family Feud. I answer, and she says, are you sure that's not what my friend said happened to him? I avoid her trap and go, that's strange. Definitely not the case here with your account. Pretends to be stumped. Bam! Right on the head. So she breaks down and says what she probably wanted to say the last 5 minutes. Why aren't you looking up my questions? I laugh it off and passively aggressively shame her back. Oh no, ma'am. I've been here forever. I get these questions all the time. Bam! Right over her head again. At this point, she's just trying to imply that I'm spitting out answers the same way she's spitting out questions. And I ask if she has a minute to go with me to the Q&A section online to get it from the horse's mouth. She declined, of course, and now she thinks we're about to have a stalemate. But my handle time isn't over 100% for nothing. I'm not about to beg and plead for her to accept that I am right, and she's not going to stall the call because she doesn't believe I know the answers to her simple questions. I am unmoved by being given the silent treatment. So I give her the old, well, Mrs. X, today I went over a few questions for you. If you have any others, we'll be glad to answer them or walk with you through the Q&A online. Enjoy the day. But I actually wait a few seconds, and she gives me silence. But as I'm starting to disconnect the call, I hear a, well, actually, wait. Click, oops. All because she was determined not to be a basic bitch. Story number 5. You know, if his story had been crazier and he'd sworn at me a little bit more, I might have processed this refund. By haunted horns. I used to work for a company that did high-end vacation rentals. For the most part, calls were pretty simple, but occasionally I'd get really odd ones. This may be one of the weirdest tall tales a customer has ever spun for me in an attempt to score a refund. I had this guy call in a week after his vacation ended, to ask for a refund on the rentals that he and his family had stayed at. It was 3 rentals all side by side. He proceeds to tell me that as soon as he got to the rentals, there was dog shit everywhere outside all 3 of the units, to the point that he could smell it as soon as he approached the sites in his vehicle. Then his grandkids rush out of the vehicle to play in the yards, while the rest of the family settled into the units. Then the grandkids come in after some time. They are now covered in it, and tracked it all inside at least one of the rentals. Allegedly, the people were throwing up all over the place, mad as hell, and talking about just getting a hotel. So, the guy goes outside, walks up the path, and flags down a manager, or who he believes to be a manager, random guy on site as he is driving past the units in his golf cart. The caller then explains what the problem is to Golf Cart Man, but he then tells me that the guy on the golf cart essentially told him to kick rocks, that the company has people who clean, that there are no dogs even allowed at the units, and then flips him off before driving away. A reasonable response if it happened. So they end up staying for the duration of their time there, miserable, and don't reach out to anyone else. Fast forward to the present. The guy on the phone with me is ranting, raving, and cursing up a storm as he describes the torment of inhabiting this feces-caked trio of units. How he wants to file a complaint against us, and he wants a refund on his credit card right now. I ask him if he ever called us, the company who actually handles the reservations for that location. He says no, but he had expected that we would simply honor his request because things have been so horrific at the rentals. He never called us to even communicate that there was a problem until now. He didn't try to phone the people on site, whose number would also have been sent to him at the time when he booked, and even managed to wait until a week after he had left to reach out to us. I don't know about y'all, but I smell some shit, and it's not coming from the rooms they booked. Naturally, the story stunk way worse than anything that may or may not have been at those units. If there was such serious issue going on, he could have called us, and we could have either refunded him or got them all transferred to different spots if they were available, if he had called then. It was everything I could do to keep myself from bursting out laughing when every response that I gave him to his numerous requests for a refund and expletive-filled rants were met with more graphic details, until I offered a compromise and simply transferred him to my soup. No refund was given, obviously, and normally transferring to a supervisor is frowned upon here, but my supervisor said he had really needed the laugh that day. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up for my Patreon page, which is linked down in the description. $1 or more a month, whatever you're comfortable with, gets you early access to all the videos at once on Monday. There's also a link to my merchandise store over on Teespring, as well as my Discord server, my Threads account, and my email, which is kingofthecities@gmail.com, should you have need to contact me. It's also there if you don't have need to contact me, but you won't need it. That's everything for now, so until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.